Kurtis Reid of the Belfast Telegraph asked me to answer a couple of questions about Iran, about the recent rocket strike, and some other questions regarding propaganda. And so I'm going to show you a video that I did of me answering those questions. I wanted to do that because, you know, that way everybody can benefit. This isn't like one of my normal videos. There's a lot of ums and ahs, and I had just gotten back from a run. So, you know, you'll see that in all of its glory. Another funny thing about the thumbnail that you saw here, apparently you can't draw Iranians shooting rockets in Adobe Firefly, but you can show Iranians shooting pickles. So it's like the best. This is the. I would love for you guys to go to Adobe Firefly and just like make some. Find me on Twitter at ryanmcbeth and show me what you made of Iranians shooting pickles toward Israel. That I want to see what pops up. I mean, some of these things are pretty darn funny. But love to all of my Iranian fans. I'm sorry you guys are going through this. So let me show you that interview with Kurtis Reid of the Belfast Telegraph, and you'll be able to catch his article probably tomorrow. I'll link to that when I do, when it comes out. Okay, the first question is, if you just explain briefly the context of the current attack against Israel from Iran and some of the background terms of what occurred in the past few days and why. So Israel struck the Iran consulate in Syria, and I think they killed about 7 IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard soldiers at that particular consulate. So Iran had to respond. And so that's kind of the background. Iran can't lose face in front of the rest of the world for letting their embassy or their consulate be attacked. Next is, it feels like every single time something like this happens, particularly with invasions, drone strikes, missiles, we see disinformation immediately generate and spread, specifically in video form when older videos are posted online, sometimes completely separate from conflicts. Why do people do this? So there's a difference between misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation is getting the facts wrong, right? Like it's very easy for someone to say Iran fired 400 missiles at Israel, right? When the real number is around 350. All right, was that malicious or was that just a mistake, right? Like an honest mistake. Disinformation is designed to deceive. And I think that the reason is that I think that people used to get their validation from their parents or from church or from their workplace, but now like a lot of people get their validation from social media, and I'm no exception. When I put out a video, you know, I want to see those comments that say, "Oh, Ryan, you're so smart, you're so amazing," right? So I think that when a conflict occurs or an event happens, people will dig up that old media just because either they honestly don't know it's old, right? You might Google like Iran attacks whatever, and you just grab the first thing that comes up, or they know it's wrong, they know it's disinformation, but they just want those internet points that don't exist. It just feels good for people to validate you, and that is a very, very powerful motivator. Next is, how can we tackle disinformation like this being spread? Is it social media, websites' responsibility? Do we as consumers need to be more media literate in being able to spot fake or misleading footage? So that's a good question, right? I mean, in the U.S. we have freedom of speech, and even lying about something is considered protected speech. I don't know the laws in Ireland. Now, I think that as people, we have an obligation not to spread fake news and disinformation, and I think that the biggest indicator is that if something makes you feel emotional, then maybe you shouldn't share it. Like that's the biggest indicator. Now, it would honestly be trivial for social media companies to implement control measures where when somebody posts something online that is not necessarily fake or old, you know, that's old, that the AI could easily identify that. AI could go, wait a minute, I've seen this media before. It happened in 2015. This is not new. and AI could flag that content for either takedown or just to throw up a message saying, hey, this is deceptive. Here's when this media actually happened. That way people can see it, because the current method with YouTube or community notes on Twitter, it takes too long, and people have screenshotted that stuff and already spread this misinformation long before it gets corrected, by the community notes on Twitter. So I kind of do think it's the social media's responsibility, at least to flag stuff as possibly misleading. Oh, I will say one more thing. In America we have freedom of speech, but that only means that the government can't control your speech. It doesn't mean your speech is free from consequences in the private sector. So if you have a company, you can write any terms of service you want for social media. So social media can say, hey, if you knowingly mislead people, we can correct your content. So I think that is certainly a route that social media could go if they chose to do so. But the problem is that it decreases engagement if everything is truthful, right? If you're just being truthful about stuff, there's going to be less extreme content that people want to share. And it'll eventually turn social media into a boring place, and boring doesn't make money. Who are the main actors in the distribution of disinformation? We know China and Russia have been involved in the act. What do you believe? Who do you believe gains the most from this? So it would be China and Russia and Iran, and also criminal gangs who are doing it on a contract basis. There's also companies in India that will do whatever you want. If you want people to post comments about your product to a message board, they'll do it. So it all depends. But the main goal of any kind of disinformation attack is to reduce faith in your government. It is to show that your government is incompetent, or your government can't prevent what's going to happen to you. And I think, like, if we look at what's going on in Israel, like, all of a sudden, all of these young people who couldn't even find Israel on a map all of a sudden hate Israel, and they're marching for something they don't even understand. That was manufactured, and it was manufactured because the more chaos that you have in countries that either support Israel or don't like Israel, the more chaos you have, the more destabilizing you can be. And this is a weapon system. This is a weapon system that can be deployed, and you have that plausible deniability that you don't have when you fire a missile and someone can take the serial number off that missile, right? Social media and these threat actors like China, Russia, and Iran, they gain from this because they can tweak this as a weapon system. And case in point, I think today there are a group of people that are going to try to block boats in the port of Los Angeles. I got news for you. They're doing it because Russia. They're doing it because they believe that weapons are being shipped to Israel. Nothing is going to Israel out of the port of Los Angeles. It's on the other side of the world. But these people have been convinced of their righteousness because they've been radicalized by platforms like TikTok. This is a weapon. This is a weapon system that can be deployed to destroy a port just as easily as a cruise missile, and there's no deniability. So that's how these countries benefit. If there was ever a war with China over Taiwan, you would see you would see China creating TikToks, or at least limiting the TikToks that are pro-Taiwan. So these Chinese TikToks would instruct people, go to the local Navy base, shut this down. America just wants to colonize Taiwan. America are colonizers. Now this is a weapon. So that's what they have to gain. They have to gain another weapon system that is working in the information space. Where do you see this attack by Iran going? People are spreading theories about a possible world war, further attacks, the West becoming involved further. What do you think of this? I think that Iran wants, this is a more geopolitical question. I'm usually good at answering questions about weapons. I think I see Iran kind of wanting this to be the end of it because they don't have the money for a war. They know that if people talk about a regional war between Israel and Iran, there was an old quote that goes, what if they threw a war and nobody came, right? Like it was an old peace activist quote from like Vietnam or something, right? So what if they threw a war and nobody came? Well, what if they threw a war and nobody had the logistical lift to actually fight it, except the U.S., right? So people talk about, a regional war. All right, well, great. Have your regional war. Iran can't actually deploy to decisively engage any of its adversaries. All Iran can really do is toss missiles at people, which sucks, but most of them will be intercepted, and cause chaos in the world through social media and through their proxies. So I don't really see this turning into a regional war because how are you going to get? How is Iran actually going to get there, and how are they going to fight, right? And even invading Iran is particularly difficult. It's very mountainous terrain. Tehran is a fairly well-defended place and difficult to get to. So I don't really see this going anywhere because having a war, it takes time and it takes resources, and Iran they don't have these resources. People spreading theories, the West becoming further involved. I mean, I don't necessarily see the West becoming further involved, although I can tell you that sometimes it might not be a bad idea to attrit Iran's capabilities just because they are, I don't want to say they're getting too big for their britches. I have to talk about this. It's very personal to me when I talk about Iran because I dealt with so many protesters after Masha Amani was beaten to death because she wore a hat the wrong way. So, like, when I talk about Iran, there are real people there, real people who contacted me and begged me to help them fight. And the most I could do is release the Iran's police radio spectrum, because in America we have a law called ITAR, the International Regulation on International Traffic in Arms Regulation, where I can't tell people how to make a weapon, right? That would be illegal. That was hard, having to turn down these Iranians who just wanted to fight and retake their country. There are real people in Iran, and they are good people, and it's just their government, man. Their government, bad. So I feel like the West could get further involved by attriting maybe some of their naval forces that are assisting the Houthis in targeting, and perhaps some of the Shahed drone factories. So those are two possibilities. I also think that we might see a cyber attack. That might be a possibility, mainly because a cyber attack has deniability and nobody's going to get killed, right? But the problem with a cyber attack is that it's a one-shot weapon. So once you fire that cyber attack, the adversary will usually figure out how that cyber attack got in, and they will create defenses, or they could even reverse engineer that weapon so that they could use it on somebody else. I hope these answer your questions. Let me know if you need anything else.
Hey everyone! New Ryan McBeth t-shirts and hoodies from Bunker Branding are available. I'm gonna get the HIMARS shirt. What are you gonna get, Donald? The Patriot shirt, because I'm a patriot. It's the best shirt, the biggest shirt. Make 14 tangos great again. What are you gonna get, Barack? Let me be clear. I'm gonna get a Drone Sweet Drone shirt. What about you, George?
I'm gonna get a Try That Missile shirt because they're weapons of mass destruction.
Oh, I'm going to get a landmine marker shirt because my presidency always blew up in my face.
I'll tell you what I'm going to get.
Ronald Reagan, but you're dead.
I came back to tell you that no matter our politics, we're all Americans. And we should buy Ryan's hoodies and t-shirts because they pay for the stock footage and licenses that allow him to make awesome content. So come on down to Bunker Branding and buy a Ryan McBeth t-shirt, or I'll start the bombing in 5 minutes.